Hold up. Wait a minute. Who's Mini Durin? Don't you worry. Even though Hoyoverse has seen fit to start leaving the less dedicated players behind with only a recollections page to fill you in, it's not that bad because now you get to come and listen here as I gently bring you up to speed on everything you missed. And then we get to speculate and theorize with all this heavy-duty lore you'll now know. If you're as far back as to not know who the Hexenzirkel is at all, then you'll want to check out this video first. Links are in the description. Then, meet me back here so we can dive right in. This is the Unlikely Genshin Gamer, and you all want to know what the hell is going on with Albedo. Welcome to Lore Class. Albedo is a synthetic human being created by the high-level Conrian alchemist Gold, also known as Rhinedottir. Rhinedottir is a member of the dangerously powerful circle of witches who are apparently allied with the animal archon named the Hexenzirkel, which makes her a dear friend and almost sister to Alice, Klee's mom. Albedo is Rhinedottir's pride and joy, in that he is the culmination of her life's work, the primordial human project. A few years ago, when she encountered the mysterious heart of Naberius, she gave him a book and a letter and one final assignment: find out the true meaning of this world. The letter was to go to Alice, who was still in Mondstadt at the time, and she in turn recommended him to the Knights of Favonius. They gave him his own lab, saddled him with the adorable but bombastic Klee, and made him captain of the investigation team. Consequently, Mondstadt's alchemical scene is second only to the academia's, after only a few short years. It's given them a combat edge, amongst other things, so that even though Mondstadt seems most medieval in technological prowess, they don't really lack for daily convenience because they lean so heavily on alchemy, like Conria. Although Albedo has been making his mama quite proud, it would seem, before she landed on the perfect design, there were many other subpar products of that project. And they are where you need to focus your attention. Most of those creations caused great death and destruction during the Cataclysm, probably helping to earn her that reputation of being instrumental in that great disaster. Things like the Rift Hounds, who were simply a discarded drawing on a piece of paper. The Golden Wolf Lord, who wasn't even complete enough to have hind legs before he was discarded. Elinus of Fontaine, now the father of Melazines, who was probably the prototype of Durin. And then her first beloved creation, the dragon son she named Durin. Interestingly, in J.R.R. Tolkien's vast Middle-earth, Durin was a name of a legendary dwarven king known as Durin the Deathless. Fitting, isn't it? Durin the dragon is one of the brothers who was extremely relevant in this quest, but the other is much less widely known. The boy so lowly esteemed that he wasn't given a name at all. In the past event, Shadows Amidst Snowstorms, Albedo discovered he had a twin, a failed stepping stone on the road to the perfect synthetic human, who Gold had Durin eat to dispose of him. But it didn't work, and resentments grew. This individual, fondly known as Susbedo by the lore community, tried unsuccessfully to impersonate Albedo and kill him, along with any witnesses, so he could then assume his role in Mondstadt, blending in and learning what it meant to be loved and wanted and human. Through studying Albedo's research, he learned a good many things about alchemy and the world. And when Albedo eventually killed and buried him, that information didn't die either. So, The events leading up to this fake trial Albedo was under in Paralogism are as follows. On Dragonspine, maybe 3 years ago, maybe 4, Albedo killed and buried the failed twin when he tried to take out the group on the mountain. But Durin's dark, jealous influence is infectious in the way abyss energy is. People and creatures exposed to it for too long basically start to think like him and can be controlled to do his bidding like pod people. Monsters were influenced to dig up the dead Susbedo and bring him back to the Durin Center to be reabsorbed along with everything he learned. Durin then found out that he wasn't Mother's favorite child anymore, and that the new prince, the Kryde Prince, is a knight of Favonius, who is loved by many. He also learned a lot of the inner workings of the knights, and he learned how to shapeshift. His monstrous spin-offs were tasked with using this information about shapeshifting and the knights to grow disguises that they could use to infiltrate the city, kill Albedo once and for all, and replace him in society. Such childish yet wickedly destructive intent. This is why I don't like doppelgangers. And you may not realize it, but Durin was jogged awake all these years later by the tremendous act the captain did in Natlan against the Shade of Death. It may not seem that big, but it's truly fitting of the first Harbinger. By forcing the Shade of Death to accept his terms, the potentially thousands of souls that he was carrying with him, including Conrian souls that had no place in the ley lines, were suddenly injected into it through the back door that is Natlan's Night Kingdom. Which means the realm of the dead isn't so tightly sealed anymore. We saw the first consequence of this in Liyue during Lantern Rite, with the border between life and death getting fuzzy. And it fell to the Wangshan funeral parlor, whose duty has been to guard the boundary, to fix it back. Here in Mondstadt, the effect was quite different. The enlightened monsters began to hunt for poor nobodies abandoned by society to kill so they could replace them. And then even ate most of the body to more realistically sell the switch. Albedo tried to preserve some dignity of the victims, finding and burying the remains. This helped to build the case against him, though. When the time seemed right, the Durin minions, both outright doppelgangers and influenced people, made their move when the knights accidentally purposely let slip that Herta the logistics officer was MIA. And scarily enough, the monsters knew that without finding and confirming real Herta's death, the takeover wouldn't be ironclad. But the knights hid her well. The knights' plan actually went surprisingly well. But what else would you expect from master deceiver Kaya Albrick, who thought out the plan? And on that note, something caught my attention. You know it always does when it pertains to Kaya. The interaction between Kaya and Diluc on the bridge was intriguing because of one particular exchange. Diluc says he realized something wasn't adding up about the trial because Kaya wasn't nervous enough during it. Why would Diluc expect the unflappable Kaya to become visibly nervous because Albedo was in trouble, unless it's because he'd be dragged down with it? And he would only be dragged down if it came out that Albedo is connected to a sinner of Conria. Maybe it's a stretch, but when Kaya's voice line about Conria mentions that no one is left but the sinners, he is very likely talking about the 5 sinners, meaning he is definitely in the know. And if he told Diluc everything that night, that pivotal night, then Diluc is too. That is probably why he thought that Kaya should have been more shaken by Albedo's indictment. But that little observation aside, there is another brother we need to talk about. The other major component of this quest, at least the second half of it anyway. And that is Mini Durin. The business of the world of Simulanka, where Mini Durin is from, is very complex, but the parts you need to remember most are quite intriguing. So, basically, the world of Simulanka is an actual alternate world created by the witches. Because why not? Mini Durin has 3 of them to thank for making that world a reality: Alice, Barbeloth, and Anya Andersdottir. Because Alice is a senior witch, the Andersdottir designation had to be a different letter than A, even though both of her names start with A. So she is known amongst the Hexenzirkel as M. And interestingly, she is the one who created the Imaginarium Theater too. Her power appears to be her magical pen, which she uses to create fantastical stories that can somehow interface with this world. Perhaps because it's not real either. Now, without going into the details of how the world of Simulanka was run, I want you to understand the 2 most important pieces of info that came out of that adventure. 1. Barbeloth said that when 2 entities share the same name, their destinies are bound together. As in, their lives will follow very similar tracks. And that was the case for Durin the toy dragon in the world of toy people, who was created by a mother who then abandoned him and wreaked havoc on the people around, mostly because he was misunderstood, just like real Durin. But his fate began to follow a different path when Wanderer of all people understood his feelings of abandonment and believed in him, which allowed him to stop wrecking things and listen. That's the part where real Durin's fate begins to follow the toys, because of the second thing I want you to remember. The way the Traveler and Paimon get into Simulanka is because Alice decided to literally drag them into the storybook in that way that she can do all sorts of things. Along with 4 others, all for specific purposes: Nilu, Navia, Wanderer, and Kirara. And at the end of Toy Durin's rampage, when Wanderer is able to get him to listen and learn that they want to help him, the 5 friends each give him a blessing to help him to become good and real. And something Alice said about this is very important. She explained that everyone's blessings have allowed Mini Durin to now exist outside of the story, especially the Traveler's, since his is a blessing from outside of the story. That's why she brought them. Now, the way this was said, it would lead one to think that she meant one who is outside of the current storybook they were adventuring in. But when taken in that context, the others were from outside of the story as well. But I don't think that's what she was talking about. She meant outside of the entire story, the story of Teyvat. That's true, then only the Traveler fits that description. And with this special blessing, Mini Durin could now exist in actual Teyvat, as a companion to Wanderer no less. Now, with the Wanderer's approval, Mini Durin left from Sumeru to heed Albedo's call to come and be a human. So take this consciousness, which shouldn't even exist, mixed with original Durin's undying vitality, plus immortal monster flesh from the black thing in the Mir Javari, and the mysterious embryo from Rhinedottir's collection. Swirl them all together, and you have the recipe for new life. Albedo has been able to create something almost on par with the achievement of his mother. ending evil Durin's mental rampage in the process, and saving everyone who had come under his influence. The transmutation circles that were created in the cutscene were something else, especially because they brought back to mind a theory I had way back after the Simulanka update, but I didn't have the time to make it into a video back then. A theory about Albedo's status as a homunculus and Full Metal Alchemist of all things. This is what I wrote way back then. I'm going to make a bold statement, one that you'll understand best if you've ever watched Full Metal Alchemist before. And that is, there is a Philosopher's Stone hidden in Teyvat, and the souls of the Cataclysm were used to make it. Okay, so we all know that Albedo is an artificial human made by gold, also known as Rhinedottir, also known as a mighty sinner of Conria and a witch of the merry Hexenzirkel. The list actually does go on. But a word that got tossed around in the lore community very early when Albedo appeared was that he was a homunculus. And that was because a homunculus, at least based on the definition in Full Metal Alchemist, is an artificial human made using a Philosopher's Stone, the ultimate alchemical prize. The highest goal in alchemy was to create a substance from which anything else can be transmuted, right? Because equivalent exchange, of course. And a Philosopher's Stone was it. It could even be used to become a seemingly complete human being. And because they could create so much, sometimes they were even known as Genesis Stones. I know you're starting to connect the dots, right? But there's even more. To create something as powerful as a Philosopher's Stone, you needed an exorbitant amount of souls. So, here's a quiz. What was the biggest annihilation event in Teyvat's recent history? That gold, a genius alchemist, was partially blamed for. That happened a little before Albedo was created. If you said the Cataclysm in Conria, you are correct. And it was presided over by a big red stone, the Crimson Moon. A stone that was said to represent the alchemy-obsessed dynasty in Conria, and now that moon hasn't been seen since. Now, if we find a giant transmutation circle somewhere on the map, I'm going to be seriously creeped out. All that conjecture aside, Albedo truly can create alchemical wonders from the tips of his fingers without the need of an alchemy table, just like someone in possession of a Philosopher's Stone. And he fears that he has the potential to destroy an entire nation. He has even apathetic Dainsleif and the supposedly tone-deaf bard on edge. What if that mark on his neck that he insists is his creation mark is really the location of his Philosopher's Stone? And of course, Rhinedottir shipped him off to Mondstadt after she found what sounds like Wriothesley's Gnosis? Again, why is everyone so hell-bent on stashing their precious, sometimes nuclear things in Mondstadt? Honestly, I wasn't that far off, was I? Of course, we now know that the heart of Naberius is definitely not a Gnosis for Wriothesley, but Naberius is similar to him in a different way, which I'll explain. And the answer to why important things keep getting stashed in Mondstadt seems to lie with the witches themselves. Mondstadt is the most powerful of nations. We can say that with almost complete certainty now. It may not seem directly so, but if the nations all went to war against each other, I think it's a safe bet that Mondstadt would win. Just watch my video about Venti and the witches to see all the reasons it's likely that Venti is far more powerful than he seems, for starters. But Varka represents a gigantic force in the Knights as well, along with his truly elite force that he took with him on his expedition. He's rumored to have the combat prowess of Capitano, and most notably, he's buddy-buddy with the witches. The mages, as they are sometimes called, are a whole other ballpark. And Varka, through Venti's, dare I say, influence over the witches, has ensured their powerful aid for Mondstadt if it's ever in need. And Venti really is revered amongst the Hexenzirkel for some reason. Notice here how Venti mentions not wanting to take anyone's seat, and Alice tells him that no one would fuss no matter where he sat. And yet, they are an extremely powerful group. I don't think anyone can actually beat them. The Knights say that Klee's bombs, which are rumored to be 1/10 of Alice's firepower, can tip the balance of power between nations. And the little kid has been known to blow up the Primo Geo Vishap for fun with them. I've already hypothesized in the other video that the members of the Hexenzirkel could be from outside of Teyvat, and that could still be possible. They are separate from the leyline system, which is telling already. But what if they are like the Voyager who befriended Dragon King Nibelung? Someone from a very distant world. Or what if the witches are enlightened Seelies? If you watch my video about the Nodcry web event, you can learn what happened to the Seelies in the past. But some escaped. Like the Moon Maiden Nabu Malikata of Sumeru, an entity far more powerful than the Archons, who was said to wield a power that was above that of the elements and was instead on par with the Abyss. Her Kavrina that she shared with her friend Rukadevata was instrumental in pushing back the Cataclysm. What if there are more of them who escaped the curse and they all decided to stick together? At least the most senior of the witches, the ones who haven't been replaced yet, could be. What do you think? Either way, with the Hexenzirkel only a literal phone call away, Mondstadt is the queen piece on this chessboard indeed. Now, don't think I forgot about the lore bomb that was dropped near the end of the quest. Namely, that Naberius is the ruler of life, most certainly the shade of life, and that Rhinedottir devoured her some time ago. In fact, good old Rhine was beginning to go mad, likely because of her meddling with the Abyss, but after devouring Naberius, she has begun to find some peace. How powerful must she be to be able to consume one of the shades? And what does that even mean? Albedo says she and the shade have basically become one. So does that mean that Rhinedottir, a sinner of Conria, who is well acquainted with the Abyss, is the fourth shade now? And when did she even do this? Speaking of the shade herself, her name is rather interesting. Veterans of this channel may remember watching my video about the names of beings in Teyvat, and in the segment about Wriothesley, I mentioned that Naberius is the Latin name for Cerberus, which is his constellation name. Wriothesley is incredibly similar to Naberius in the famous Ars Goetia book. But don't you think it's creepy that the name of the ruler of life in Teyvat is the equivalent to the name of the Duke of Hell? Others fit their names quite well, but they're more like strange demons with weird quirks about them. Not like Paimon and now Naberius, King and Duke of Hell respectively. I mean, it sort of fits Wriothesley as the Duke of the Prison of Fontaine. But why would the name of the Shade of Life be synonymous with that of a prison warden? A prison. I don't know. You tell me. This also begs the question, where is the primordial one? Is he really sleeping? Or incapacitated? Or what if he isn't asleep at all and is watching silently, not striking until a predetermined moment And then everything that people think they've been getting away with comes falling down on their heads. I think I've mentioned this before, and it's honestly a terrifying thought. We'll just have to wait and see. Anyway, this one got pretty long too. It took me a long time to get it out. But, again, there was a lot to cover. I can't wait till we learn more about what's going on, especially with the arrival of Skirk. Literally, every aspect of her release is going to carry tons of lore. And if any of you see what's going on over in Star Rail, and notice just how primordial one-like a certain someone is becoming, remember I said it first. At least I think I did. Okay, as always, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, and share with someone who's looking to get caught up before Nod Cry. And I'll see you in the next one.